been a minute since we spoke about Atsushi Okubo on the channel since that slight disappointment of Soul Eater Not, but it's no mystery as to where my soul alias came from. With Soul Eater, Atsushi Okubo became one of my favorite mangaka ever. His art book remains one of my favorite that I've ever purchased, and his style notably stands out from every other mangaka that you've ever seen. Just recently, a good friend of mine, Shinji Aramaki, conceptual designer for the Soul Eater anime, drew on my Soul Eater Blu-ray for me. We met up. He even drew on these little candies for me. And I also got this brand new Maka Allburn and Soul figure from Medicom Toy so many years ago. Still in the box, still haven't opened it, so I mean it's pretty obvious of how big of a fan I am of Soul Eater. I have quite the collection, and now Fire Force continues to capture my love for Okubo's style and storytelling. After all, how could someone who names his channel after Soul Eater not talk about the major reincarnation of the series in 2019 with Fire Force? You could be typing in the comments right now about how upset you are, you know, at the title, and it feels so good to tell you that I don't even care this much about your complaints, because they may be different series and you could simply say it's Okubo-san's classic style and the series aren't related, but I beg to differ. To me, it feels like if anything, Fire Force is just a second season or a spin-off of the precursor that we've come to love so much, and in the best way possible. There are just too many symmetrical similarities between Fire Force and Soul Eater. Maki's meta sentient fireball is clearly inspired by Soul Levin's soul. And the Soul Eater logo continues to appear constantly throughout the series, and immediately upon Arthur's introduction in Fire Force, any Soul Eater fan would be grinning ear to ear when they heard the words Excalibur. The classic annoyance from Soul Eater, King Arthur, by the way, the legendary knight mentioned in Soul Eater and the Meister of Excalibur. Of course you all know, well yeah, he shows up in Fire Force. I mean, come on.
Yo,
and speaking of grins, the ridiculous reason for Shinra's jagged grin was so Okubo could just keep Soul's classic grin alive, a signature of his original creation being passed on to the next. And you'll find that our Fire Force characters reside in the 8th Company Fire Brigade. That the kid's favorite symmetrical number? 8. Coincidence? I don't think so. The Tamashi or soul is spoke about several times in the series. In episode 4, Shinra states, Hono Tamashi no Ibuki, Kokoen wa Tamashi no Kaiho, meaning the flame is the soul's breath, the black smoke is the soul's release.
Hono wa Tamashi no Ibuki, Kokoen wa Tamashi no Kaiho.
And while I have yet to read the Fire Force manga because I didn't want to spoil the anime and I didn't really want to be disappointed in the anime, multiple characters reference Soul Eater in the manga, whether it be Volcan Joseph and his tattoos similar to the African branch of DWMA's Meister, or a fire demon who looks just like Ragnarok, or Akitaru's mask. Tsukumi revitalized, way more badass and fine as hell now that she's not in Soul Eater Not anymore, and since clearly she grew up a bit. By the way, Maka and Soul both offer commentary in a special edition of the Fire Force manga, which if you want to pick up and support the creator directly in Japan, you can grab all of the manga on global.bookwalker.jp. Link in the description. I'm working with the official distributors in Japan, and if you use my code SOULANI, you can get $5 off any of the 16 volumes that are currently available. That link again will be in the description, so go support Okubo-san and pick up the manga, especially if you're enjoying the anime right now, or if you love Soul Eater. I know I'll be rereading Soul Eater soon and checking out all the original Fire Force manga has to offer. Now, this is my first Studio David production anime since I haven't watched JoJo yet, and there is a key reason behind why Studio David is animating Fire Force, one of my favorite anime of the year. And that reason is a different studio entirely, by the name of Studio Shaft, the one responsible for favorite anime of mine like the Monogatari series and Nisekoi. But Soul, you might ask, what do those beautifully animated series have to do with Fire Force? Well, I'll tell you, young whippersnapper, Studio Shaft may have produced countless of our favorite anime, but perhaps the environment there wasn't so befitting of the talented animators and directors who were working at Shaft offices in Japan. Fire Force director Yuki Yase ditched Studio Shaft after nearly a decade of working on the Monogatari series, Nisekoi, Zaregoto, and so many others. But Yase wasn't the only one. The Kizumonogatari trilogy remains my favorite set of anime films in existence. So what was Studio Shaft Chief Animation Director of Kizumonogatari doing working on Fire Force now? Well, Moriko quit Studio Shaft. That's right, the guy who worked on the film with the coolest animated fire scene in the history of anime is working on Fire Force. Fire Force producer Kosuke Matsunaga quit Studio Shaft in 2018. Sho Sugawara quit Studio Shaft. Ryo Honjoya quit Studio Shaft. And where are they now? They are all working on Fire Force at David Production, and the list goes on, ladies and gentlemen. So why? They're all working together again. Clearly they didn't hate their colleagues. They didn't form a new studio like Trigger did. Instead, they joined an existing one. If I had to guess, they must have not agreed with the upper management or the environment at Shaft. And now, ex-Studio Shaft members hold the fate of Fire Force in their hands. And they are also the reason Fire Force animation has been blowing me and everyone else away. Maybe after so many members of Shaft left together, they have something to prove. And they're about to prove it with Fire Force. But weren't they supposed to be proving it earlier this year? That's right, Fire Force was delayed. It was supposed to be a spring anime, but we know what happens to rushed anime, and so do the studios. They might come out looking nice, but they certainly do not stay that way if they're rushed. Studio David Production must have known that too, because the staff were given more time and more money. So who played a part in that? Well, Funimation executive producers are involved with the project and stand to gain not only from a high quality series to release in the US, but also a delay allows time for the dub to get finished for streaming. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't Adult Swim airing the show right now too? And the Japanese broadcasting station that's going to air Fire Force just happened to be starting a special summer anime block, and wouldn't a beautiful anime adaptation be just perfect for that promotion in Japan? Might as well postpone it from spring to summer, and that's exactly what they did in Japan as well. So who's backing all of these companies that are demanding a spotless production and offering more time to the creators? The gathering of anime gods from none other than Studio Shaft. I'm telling you right now, this may never happen again. The delay for production Studio Shaft members with fire in their eyes and their pins, Funimation, Adult Swim, the Japanese TV studio, everyone wanted this to be a success. So let's dive a little deeper into their success, shall we? Again, the Fire Force director worked at Shaft for almost 10 years, so without missing a beat, Fire Force kicks off with some astounding animation, fast cuts, and lingering stares that make you feel a bit uneasy and detached from the situation. The same way Shinra feels. Company 8 is already a group of close comrades, and Shinra is an outsider. With the introduction of each new character and personality, I felt that they already belonged as a unit. Not the same way Soul Eater did. That charismatic cast and Soul Eater just fit perfectly together, and that's probably one drawback about Fire Force, but it all comes down to the framing of those shots to make you feel Shinra's isolation, not only to his new fire brigade, but as we quickly learn, to society. And that's the beginning of his journey to find a home that accepts his off-putting smirk and devil-pervaded power. Though that's not the only way these Studio Shaft icons make our Fire Force brigade stand out. How do you make non-stop fire sequences feel exciting and fresh every single time? Well, maestro of an animator Kazuhiro Miwa certainly knows the answer to that question, because his sequences are just filled with so many detailed frames the viewer can only see for a fraction of a second, and they elevate the flames, giving them personalities of their own. There's a difference in the way infernal flames and main character flames are animated fundamentally in Fire Force, through timing, shape, 2D effects, and even photorealism. The normal fires aren't given this supernatural aura that the characters' flames are, and you can distinctly notice that. Each character and their corresponding flames are very, very unique, whether that be Takami and her Pusu or an enraged Shinra flying through the air. The attention to detail in this anime is just on another level. Like when Yuki Yamashita animates Takami running atop the train in the opening, you can feel through the screen how heavy her suit is, and because of that, I will never skip the opening. Well, that's not the only reason, of course. I'm so happy that finally the world is giving Mrs. Green Apple some attention outside of Japan. I've been a fan for such a long time, saw the band live in Tokyo at Met Rock in 2017, had no idea they even made any music for anime at the time, and I think that they only had like once before, but it's so cool that Fire Force is giving them way more exposure. Highly recommend their In the Morning EP if you like the Fire Force opening. Kind of broke the CD when I was traveling in Japan, but director Yase's take on all of the chaotic action in the opening comes together so well with Motoki's vocals, and it might be a weird match, but I'm in love with this opening, seriously. And while not as extravagant as the opening, Taiki Kono handled every single aspect of producing, storyboarding, and directing the somber ending alongside Kei Nasuda's Veil ending theme song. While you may see a glimpse of a terrible incident from Sister Idis's past, Kono's gorgeous design of the female body is really the animation that's catching your eye, especially because he's published many books on the subject of the female physique. He is well suited to elicit both the sensual and uneasy moods that the ending aimed to create. Really, so far, Fire Force doesn't have many drawbacks. Apparently Studio David is using the same Kakeni 2D animation and between software the Studio Trigger has used, meaning in-between animation is sped up and they don't have to draw the entire in-between frames anymore. And while the software may come off as clumsy sometimes, most of the time no one can even notice, and clearly it's been working well enough for them. If you're a fan of Soul Eater, you're probably going to love Okubo's Fire Force. It's the main point of this video. Who knows, maybe now Okubo will have a chance to work on an actual Soul Eater Season 2, have some of that Maka soul action going on, please, finally. Either way, honestly, if we're really getting 4 cours with 12 or so episodes each of Fire Force, I am fired up.